Hello and welcome to our training for December EOCs. This is our STAR EOC training for our fall 2019 EOCs that will be occurring during the second full week of December. Just as a front, remember that the training that we're going to go through here today does not take the place of reading the appropriate manuals. So I want to go over the dates of when we'll be testing this year. We will start on Tuesday. There is a new TEA regulation that does not allow schools to start state testing on the first day of the school week. So we cannot start until Tuesday. So we will have English 1 on Tuesday, December 10th, Algebra 1 on Wednesday, December the 11th, English 2 on Thursday, December the 12th, and then Biology and U.S. History on Friday, December the 13th. We'll also be trying to get in some of our makeup tests that will need to occur during that same time period. So today we're going to talk about some noteworthy changes that have happened from last test year, some ideas and some thoughts on test security. We're going to talk about test administration and procedures. We're going to go through a couple of things about online testing. We're going to talk briefly about answer documents, and then we will end our presentation with campus procedures. So here are some noteworthy changes for this school year, 2019-2020. So the form number, which used to not be something that was on a December or summer retest, there is going to be a form number on all General STAR test booklets all year long. It is our understanding that the form number is likely going to still be the same for everyone in December, but the form number is going to be on there, so therefore it is something that we will have to put down on the answer document like we have done during spring testing for a number of years. Testing calendar updates, like I mentioned before, we're going to no longer be able to test on the first day of the week. And the last thing that really kind of pertains to us here is an updated test security oath, which I will get to you, and you will see has changed a little bit from last year, which was a significant change from years past. This is something that happened last year. This was a new piece last year that the state put into place. When a student gets ill during test and has to leave campus during that test, they are allowed to come back and complete the assessment. As long as it is done within the administration window. We have to keep track of how much time they've used, and they can only be allowed the amount of time that they are due back. And also we have to be very careful as to where they are, and so we have to paperclip and separate the questions that they have completed because they're not allowed to go back to a section and redo something that they did from a previous day. And so you can see that this applies to many of the exams, but it definitely applies to all 5 of the EOCs that we offer here at the high school level. Blank answer documents, this is still something that was kind of new last year. If a blank answer document is discovered, we may, with our district coordinator's permission, use a pencil to transcribe the student responses from a test booklet to a blank answer document. If we have this happen, then we would follow the same procedures that we would follow for using basic transcription. The caveat to this is, if this scenario was to occur, this would be a procedural irregularity related to active monitoring if we were not watching the student to make sure that the student got that done by the time the test was over with. So that's going to be a kind of a double whammy. The kid the state is giving the kid a chance to get those answers transcribed, but it becomes an irregularity on our part. If we have a student that refuses to test, essentially you kind of see what's listed here in bold. If they choose to not respond to test items, they will have their answer document or online test submitted for scoring as is. If they are in attendance that day and they choose not to participate or refuse to test, they will have their answers submitted for scoring. This is something that kids don't necessarily understand, that they think, well, if they don't, if they will refuse the test, then the test itself won't be scored, but that's not the case. We have to send the test in and have it scored as is, regardless if they answered one question or no questions. Test security. Test security is one of the most important things that happens during any kind of test administration. There has been a lot of law put into place to make sure that we all have a fair and equal testing opportunity for all our kids that are testing in any given testing situation. I mean, these are high stakes tests, and we want to make sure that we can tell the public and assure everyone that we have followed the procedures that are put into place, and so that the test is standardized and that the integrity of the test is there. So test security involves a lot of different things. It includes people who handle secure materials, so anyone who handles secure materials. Those individuals qualified to participate must be trained, which is what we're doing here, and sign an oath, which you will do before testing day. We have to properly store the materials. We have to think about where those locations could be within the building, who has access, what is the chain of custody, and how we monitor that during the testing season. Documenting the transfer of materials, maintaining our integrity of tracking documentation, having secure storage, and then also district or state personnel can certainly audit periodically to make sure that these things are being followed. Test security and confidentiality covers protecting all secure test content and compliance with those requirements. So test secure content are things such as the test booklet, the online assessment, the test ticket for those students that test online, completed answer documents, Star Alt 2, which we will do later in the spring, and then anything to do with TELPAS calibration. So compliance with that means that we're training folks, that we are monitoring our administrations to make sure that they are being given in accordance to the rules and regulations set out by the state, and that we are investigating and reporting any alleged or confirmed breaches during our testing administration window. So test irregularities kind of fall into one of two categories. They can be serious irregularities or they can be procedural. Over the next couple of slides, we'll talk about serious irregularities, and you will see that these are the most severe in terms of what would happen during a test administration, and you can see why they will be considered or categorized in that level. So it's a severe violation of test security or confidentiality. We must immediately investigate them, and our district testing coordinator is required by law to do that. If we have a serious irregularity, we must report it to TEA as soon as the district testing coordinator is made aware. And these are the types of irregularities that can get yourself into some trouble with the TEA Educator Certification and Standards Divisions. So some examples over the next couple of slides here. Directly or indirectly assisting a student with response to a test question, tampering with student responses, falsifying holistic ratings or student responses, and that would be in TELPAS or TELPAS Alt, viewing secure test content before or during or after the administration unless you've been given a specific authorization from TEA to do so, discussing or disclosing test content or their response, scoring the test either formally or informally, or duplicating, recording, or electronically capturing any confidential test content unless you've been given some permission from TEA to involve in that. Some others could be responding to test questions for students, exempting or preventing a student from participating in the administration of a required state assessment, receiving or providing unallowable assistance during TELPAS calibration, encouraging or assisting someone to engage in any of the things that we talked about before in the last couple of slides, or failing to report to the appropriate authority that you have suspected or engaged in any of this conduct that's been described in those last few slides. Penalties for serious irregularities can be referred to TEA's Educator Standards and Certification Legal Division for the consideration of disciplinary action. And so you can see here that the disciplinary action can be quite severe. It can be a restriction on the issuance or renewal of your certificate. It could be a reprimand listed into your file. It could be suspension of your certification for a certain amount of time, or you might have your certificate revoked or canceled altogether without an opportunity to reapply for a set term, or it could be a permanent ban. Procedural irregularities, that's the other type. These are the minor ones. They are minor errors or deviations from testing procedures. They are not severe breaches in test security or confidentiality. They do not require a call to TEA unless guidance is needed by the district, but they do require an incident report being submitted to the TEA. And they do not require supporting documentation to be submitted with the district's incident report. When we're talking about something that falls under the serious irregularities, we have to send in a ton of supporting documentation that goes along with the information that we're sending back into TEA. If it is determined that a student cheats on one of the state exams, either by providing or receiving assistance, we are required by law to invalidate the student's test. We must contact TEA immediately if the student electronically captured, like with a cell phone, any portion of the test or answer document, and the disciplinary actions that are taken against the student would be reported on a form called the Locally Determined Discipline Action Form. And that is something the student's administrator would complete. So let's talk about administration and procedures. Seating charts must include the following things: the test session, district and campus name, room location, the assessment being provided, the first and last name of the test administrator and the monitors in the session, the last and first name of each student that's participating and where they were sitting, and then start and stop times for the actual students in the room that really more for the room that was given that test. The material control form that we use in Testtown will be utilized to fulfill these requirements, and our relief monitors can sign in and put that on the back of the on the back of the form. As it pertains to electronic devices, we are required as a district to have procedures in place to prevent the use of cell phones and other electronic devices during tests. We know that they can disrupt the testing environment and they can compromise the security and confidentiality of the test. So those are not allowed, and we have a procedure in place. Please know that as we continue to go through times, there are more technology-based accommodations like basic transcription, speech to text, and other things. But these accommodations do not allow students to permit them to use the internet during testing. And also, any device that has internet or photographic capabilities are not allowed. There are some things that they are doing now to try to limit some of these issues, some different apps that they put in place to allow districts to have more flexibility. But the basic gist of it is that the device being used shouldn't be able to access the internet and shouldn't have photographic capability. So we have the electronic device statement that the district has put, and we'll read that before testing. We will be using wall or desk clocks to track time, not computers or cell phones. And just know, it's not so much of a thing with December retesting, but that if a student is done testing and they were going to read a book or something along those lines, it would need to be a paper book and not an electronic device like an iPad or any of those things. So our supports that we've put in place for technology procedures, we have our electronic device statement. We have a click sheet for basic transcription with or without spelling assistance for those students that have that accommodation. We have a click sheet for speech recognition, which is another accommodation that could be used. And then we also have procedures in place for accessing the STAR and the TestNav secure browser applications, which are preloaded on all of our devices. Test time limits. The English 1 and English 2 assessment has a 5-hour time limit, while all other assessments have a 4-hour time limit. You will begin your time after you have read your directions and tell the students in your room to begin working on your test. You must use a clock or timer to keep time in your room, and you must communicate orally and or in writing the amount of time left to test in 1-hour intervals, and you usually do that in shorter increments in that last hour. Remember, students must record all of their responses by the end of the test session time period. Makeup testing is available for all grades and subjects in accordance with Materials Returns Guidelines. We as a campus have to make every attempt that we can to give makeup tests where possible. And EOC retesters are eligible testers, so they are expected to participate if they're at school on testing day. With the state's new requirements, makeup testing is going to be a little bit more difficult during December here, but we're going to do everything we can to try to get those students in and taking their tests. If you have a student with basic transcription, which there will be a few, you're going to be transcribing the answer document. There is a statement that you would use. You write it in pencil at the top of the answer document, and you want to make sure to stay out of the bubbles or railroad tracks, or the sides of the answer documents. You need to stay out of that part. There should be up there on the top. The statement is to be written for students eligible for basic transcription. If if the transcription was to occur for another reason, you would modify the statement. Transcribed by Troy because the original answer document was torn, something along those lines. Students and teachers should be reminded not to change or add any identifying or demographic information on the answer sheet. The student may definitely review the transcription after completed and make changes as long as the student's time limit has not expired, the student has left the room, or the student remains in testing mode. So if a student wants to review what you are putting in basic transcription, that is fine, but they would have to remain in testing mode during the duration of that administration, because they couldn't go off and start reading something and then come back. Some of the accommodations codes that you might see on the paper test, if you are seeing things bubbled within the part of the answer sheet that talks about accommodations, these are the things you might see. The most common ones for us are DS, designated support, large print, LP, or oral assigned administration. Online testing, something that was new last year, just as a reference. There is now a dictionary tool available for the online versions of our STAR English assessments. The accommodations codes for the online test are a little bit different, and so those of you that are involved in online testing just might want to make a note of these. They're just different abbreviations that they use for the paper. So in terms of returning materials back to this campus testing coordinator, you want to make sure that you've counted and alphabetized your answer document. You're checking for the test booklet number and the form number on all your answer documents, and that you've bubbled S on all answer documents that should be scored. You should not bubble A or O for any student. Leave those score codes blank and let me as a campus testing coordinator figure out if those things need to be bubbled. You will need to count your test booklets, put your booklets in numerical order. You'll need to complete and sign your testing room roster and seating chart, and sign your accommodation list for your testing room if you have any accommodations within your given testing room. We will use a master materials form for check-in and check-out. This form must be completed in pen. You as the test administrator will initial out, accepting responsibility for the inventory. So that means you're going to count and check the booklet numbers and verify the answer documents. We will sign them back in, assuming responsibility, and we will then count and check booklet numbers and verify the correct number of answer documents. You must maintain the security of your materials while they are in your possession, and remember, if testing is still in session during lunch, booklets must be collected and students must be closely supervised. When we're handling materials, just remember that we may not write student names on the test booklet. That is part of the administration script. You can put post-it notes as long as they do not result in the test administrator or the student deviating from the script itself, and it has to be removed before we pack any materials. We may not write test booklet numbers on student answer sheets for them beforehand. Remember, that is also part of the standardized administration scripts, and we cannot affix any labels, tape, or etc. to the answer documents. If we had a situation with contaminated material, we would securely transcribe to a clean document as soon as it happened, if possible. It is not necessary for us to keep or return the contaminated documents to the tested vendor. We would have to note the barcode information for the test booklet or the answer document that was contaminated, and then we would call our assessment office to get some direction on how to handle those scenarios. On test day, if you're going to be absent, you have yourself scheduled to administer a test that day. please email me or text me. But also, you need to work with your teammates to get the test covered, okay? That's something that you all just kind of have to work out amongst yourselves to help make sure that if you're not there, that one of your teammates can step in and help you out. Remember to bring your own lunch, snacks, water, etc. for test days, because some of these tests are longer than others. We will be checking out materials from the top of the library, 8 o'clock in the morning. Seating charts will be in your testing bins, and when you check things out, you're going to verify that your answer sheets agree with your roster. Don't just count them, check the names to make sure they verify too. That the booklet numbers agree with what's on the control form, that you have a reader booklet if you're in an oral all administration room, and that you have any overlays, bilingual dictionaries, etc. in your testing tub. Checking materials in and out. Remember, test administrators initial out, accepting responsibility for the inventory. You're going to count those book numbers and you're going to sign out in ink. When they come in, we are going to assume responsibility and we are going to sign them in ink as well. Remember, you're going to maintain security of the materials while you're in possession, and think about lunch. Once again, testing past lunchtime is a strong possibility for those English testing days on December 10th and December the 12th. Lunch, we will have all this information communicated to students about bringing lunch for testing days. We will stop the test for lunch at 1 o'clock and have lunch from 1 to 1:30. So you will stop all testing, collect answer documents and test booklets, place them in a secure location, then record your stop time for lunch. Kids don't have to be silent during lunch, but they cannot discuss the test, nor can they access any of their personal items. They can have the full 30 minutes for lunch, and then when lunch is over, you will hand out documents and test booklets and then record the new start time after lunch. When a student finishes their test, they should raise their hand, and remember, you should go check them out. They should be bringing things to you. The first thing is to verify that the answers have been bubbled in on the answer sheet. If not, say you've not recorded your answer documents on the you've not recorded your answers on the answer document. Please go back and mark your answers now. Once the student turns in his answer document and test booklet, he may not have them back. So that's very important that you check their answer sheet before you accept any answer sheets or test booklets as being done. When you're ending the test, when the test window is over, time is up, you're going to announce the time is up and instruct any students who are still testing to stop and put their pencils down. You're going to actively monitor as you collect the materials to ensure that students do not continue to test while you are picking things up. Remember, for failure to comply with the time limit is a testing irregularity. Students may not record responses on their answer document after time limit expires. Failing to ensure that answer documents are bubbled within the time limit through active monitoring is a testing irregularity. So if something is blank, you need to let me know, and then realize that we're going to have an irregularity on our hands to rectify. When you turn in your test tub, you're going to verify that the student name is on each test booklet. You're going to verify that the student has not added or changed the front side of the answer document. Verify the test booklet number is on the answer document and is accurate. Verify the form code. You're going to bubble in S for score on the answer document if the student took the test. Put the answer sheets in alpha order, and then completed your seating chart, signed with your start and stop times completed on that sheet. That concludes our training for today. If you have any questions, please send those my way. I appreciate you and what you do, and thank you for being attentive to this presentation today.